This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Eleven soldiers killed in Burkina Faso as the country mourns the death of 35 civilians. Turkey to reaffirm its position on Libya a day after President Erdogan visited Tunisia. And we continue our series on Liberia. Today we look at the country's culture. This is a CGTN. Welcome to Africa Live with me, Beatrice Marshall, in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program, 10 million mobile phone users in Tanzania to be cut off if they fail to meet the end of a December registration deadline. And the show various of drivers and cars. The top drivers prepare for the 2020 Dakar rally in Saudi Arabia. We start the bulletin in Burkina Faso, where 11 soldiers have been killed a day after insurgents killed 35 civilians at a military outpost in Soum province. President Roch Marc Kabore cancelled all seasonal celebrations and declared 2 days of national mourning in response to the attack. This month's incident follows an attack on a mining convoy in November, which killed nearly 40 people. The Islamist insurgency has ignited ethnic tensions and rendered large parts of the country ungovernable this year. This has been amplified by a spillover of militant attacks from its northern neighbor, Mali.
The military is sending a strong message. They're saying, if you go back to Ouagadougou, tell the civilians that we are together, and that it is this togetherness that will win this battle. If you assure us that the civilians are with us, then we will go from victory to victory. We have received this message here.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has just made a statement about his surprise visit to Tunisia on Christmas Day. Erdogan says Turkey's parliament will be sent a motion for military support in Libya as soon as it returns from recess. Erdogan met his Tunisian President Kais Saied in Tunis on Wednesday to discuss a possible ceasefire in neighboring Libya. Turkey has signed deals on military cooperation and maritime borders with Libya, alarming some other states in the eastern Mediterranean. The Libyan government is currently battling Eastern Commander Khalifa Haftar's troops for Tripoli. Libya's Tripoli government interior minister is also expected to address the media over the visit on Wednesday. Well, let's cross over to Michal David, who is in Istanbul for us, and she's joining us with some more details. Michal, President Erdogan just made a speech on Libya. What were the highlights of that speech?
Yes, Beatrice. So the most important item on his speech, of course, was Libya. He emphasized and he clearly stated that Turkey plans to send troops to Libya. He stated that the parliament will be given a motion for approval regarding sending troops. He stated that he actually expects it to be signed and approved between January 8th and 9th, so he even gave a date to that. He stated that Turkey was very happy to accept the invitation from Libya to send troops. Regarding his visit to Tunisia, which was a very surprising one yesterday that happened last minute, he stated that Tunisia, as a neighboring country to Libya, was being impacted by the conflict there. He stated that Tunisia can play a very key role. He stated, and I quote, "I believe Tunisia will have valuable and constructive contributions to establishing stability in Libya." He said this earlier, and he stressed that Turkey and Tunisia will be cooperating very closely regarding the conflict in Libya.
So, Michal, Turkey has signed deals on military cooperation and maritime borders with Libya. So Turkey seems to be ruffling feathers with its Mediterranean neighbors. What exactly is Turkey's strategy on Libya?
Well, Turkey's strategy really is regarding those two agreements, one economic, one security/political. When we're talking about, of course, the Mediterranean and the potential that there is there for Turkey is just incredible. So Turkey really is ambitious when it comes to these agreements. When it comes to the gas exploration potential that create for Turkey, Turkey is determined to continue despite threats from Greece, criticism from Greece and EU countries due to its exploration activities already in the Mediterranean. And Turkey believes that because the United Nations also supports the GNA, the Government of National Accord inside Libya, that the deals that Turkey signed with the GNA, they're very much legitimate, that they're very much legal. So Turkey thinks that it has the right, international right, to do so. And these are, of course, economic goals for Turkey. And when we're talking about the security, the agreement, the security deal that it has signed with the GNA as well, these are really concerning Turkey's ambitions to become a regional powerhouse. So those are very much in line with that. Turkey also wants to have a say in what happens in the Mediterranean. So Turkey's goals are really much related to that when it comes to Libya.
So, Michal, Turkey is pursuing its ambitions of becoming a regional powerhouse, but there have also been extended talks in Moscow between a Turkish government delegation and Russian diplomats over Libya, among other things. Do we know the content of those talks and why they have taken very long?
Well, for Turkey, the situation is very sensitive when it comes to Russia because these are very important ties, Turkish and Russian ties. Now, when Erdogan stated that he would send troops to Libya, this was something that he added, saying that they would, of course, want to avoid any clashes with Russia because, of course, Russia is supporting the opposite side when it comes to Libya, the LNA, Libyan National Army. And we know that there are potentially on the ground right now private Russian contractors supporting the LNA. So it's very much critical for Turkey to avoid any such clashes. Russia has also stated that it's a very big concern, Turkey's potential sending troops to Libya. And these ties are very important for the two countries. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to arrive in Istanbul on January 8th. He's going to be launching the Turk Stream pipeline. Very big, massive deal for the two countries. Turkey has also bought the S-400 missile defense system from Moscow, despite potential threats from the United Nations regarding sanctions. So these are very sensitive and massive deals for the two countries when it comes to economic cooperation between the two. So they want to avoid any conflicts, and they have been able to cooperate despite being on the opposite side, for example, in the Syrian conflict as well. So they are trying, I believe, to also make sure that they can still cooperate, balance ties, even though they are still on the opposing sides in Libya as well.
Michal David joining us there from Istanbul. Thank you. You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. We look at Liberia's culture in our continuing series on the country. And blind dining, Egypt opens its first dining in the dark restaurant.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
For a look at some economic data out of the country. The country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
In a Caribbean, in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives.
Reporting from Nairobi City Center.
News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference.
Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Liberia's creative industry has the potential to play a significant role in economic development. However, the industry lags behind due to a lack of government support. A few individuals in the country are trying to change this through an initiative to promote Liberia's cultural heritage, not only as a means of development, but as a means to promote the country's folklore. Here's CGTN Susan Mongeli with that story.
The Sunday dance is popular among communities in Western Liberia. It's performed by girls who've graduated from Bush School, where they're taught cultural values and norms. Ready for marriage, they show off to potential suitors. And then there is the Back to the Soil dance. Popular among farming communities. It shows the entire process involved in rice farming, from the clearing of the bush through the harvest.
The performing arts is very, very significant and important in our national development program because we believe our people can easily understand from what we do, our acts, our dances, our dramas, our songs, they can easily relate to these things.
Malawala Balawala was a household name in Liberia in the 1980s before the Civil War. With the restoration of peace, the group is back, with the aim of telling the traditional Liberian story. Miles away in the outskirts of Monrovia, a cultural awareness program is currently underway. It's part of a pilot project that seeks to reawake a passion for traditional Liberian music.
After the war, our kids are being lost. Even the adults are being lost. Some of them did not grow up by their people. They grew up in Monrovia and knowing nothing about Liberia. So we believe going back to the school system and introducing our culture to our children is going to help us preserve and protect our culture.
The program is part of an initiative by the Adezuzu, an organization looking to help rewrite the emerging narratives of Liberia's socioeconomic and political challenges.
So what we hope to achieve through Ayazuzu is utilize the power of culture and creativity as the means of economic growth and national development in Liberia. And how we intend to do this is through programs and strategies that address some of these cultural, economic, and national development issues.
The organization is also trying to professionalize the industry as well as promote the development of production spaces for artists.
Liberian artists lack the means of production, and as such, many have had to travel to Ghana, to Nigeria, where they can be able to access some of these facilities. Now, overall, this has the potential to further stifle the growth of the creative industry.
Artists are not benefiting from what their properties, their intellectual properties, they are not benefiting simply because people are in the habit of bootlegging. We call it bootlegging. And so there's a need that we can't root them out of the business, but we can help them manage the business so that there will be a fair share. The artists are winning, and they too, they are winning.
Piracy is of particular concern for upcoming musicians like the hip-hop artists. Hip-hop is a musical mashup of hip-hop and the Liberian colloquial English that tackles societal issues including governance. Despite its popularity, artists are unable to get a break and depend on events like this by veteran artist Takunje for exposure.
When I was coming up, we used to have a place called City Hall, you know, and the National City Hall where we used to go and perform. But all of a sudden, when development started to come, and then they're trying to take us to another classic level that nobody can afford. So with my own ingenuity and my own spark that God blesses me with, I'm like, yo, let me do this and open this part up that Liberian artists can be able to prioritize the skills and the talents.
Liberian creative scene is still growing, and these artists, both traditional and modern, are determined to grab the world's attention while singing and dancing to their own tune. Susan Mungeli, CGTN, in Monrovia, Liberia.
And moving now to Cote d'Ivoire, where the government is boosting support for the social integration program set to ensure maximum inclusion in learning institutions. The program is focused on increasing the number of students with special needs in formal institutions of learning. Until now, children with hearing impairment have faced stigma and challenges accessing support in various academic institutions. CGTN's Beryl Oro brings us the story.
At the National School for the Deaf located in a commune district in Abidjan, more than 200 staff members at the school have adopted the integrated program for both children with special needs and those in the general population.
At first, I just came to see what they were doing in this school. But since I came, I liked what we were learning. That's what convinced me to stay.
As a social worker, I find it particularly interesting to be able to help a person with a disability, and especially when we teach them in the classroom and find that they have understood it very well, then the satisfaction is enormous.
Since its establishment in 1974, the School for the Deaf has inspired the absorption of thousands of people with hearing impairment into formal social and economic spaces in the country.
I passed several tests, but each time I was refused the position to which I claimed because of my handicap. I didn't give up until a private company agreed to hire me. It was after this first job that I was recruited into the public service, and today I am a bursar here at the School for the Deaf in Cote d'Ivoire.
The supervision of children with disabilities is not easy, but our job and our mission is to give these children the chance to have a place in society. We therefore give them the necessary support to facilitate their integration.
The government is on a mission to make schooling a reality for all. And the top priority is to train 157 teachers in 127 institutions in the country.
Our strategy for getting as many children as possible to school is to ensure that we can make the best use of existing structures and ordinary schools that already exist, to ensure that there is maximum inclusion and integration of all the children into the classic school system.
Since 2010, Cote d'Ivoire has injected consistent financial support, resulting in the training of teachers and increased the number of children in quality care at the school. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
Egypt has opened its first dining in the dark restaurant, offering a unique experience for customers as well as employment opportunities for visually impaired waiters. CGTN's Beryl Oro now looks at this initiative aimed at empowering the visually impaired.
A visually impaired advocate and business owner in Egypt took the opportunity of providing a unique experience for diners whilst teaching the visually impaired locals the skills of cooking.
I want to transfer the cases of those with disabilities from civil organizations, from charities that give help for no return, to a new form.
Abdel Basset Azab partnered with an international brand called Dan Le Noir, a dining project that allows patrons to dine in complete darkness, served and guided by visually impaired waiters. An experience focused on enhancing and trusting one's physical senses.
Personally, I cannot see. I would normally need a guide, but I also don't trust them easily because you're essentially operating through their world. But if I guided a customer, he or she will trust me because I'm already like them in the dark. I know how to handle myself in the dark quite well. The customer should be able to trust me because this is my world. He will be the one who is new to this world, not me.
The project began in November with the aim of finding a way to help the disabled learn how to support themselves.
Just like the Chinese say, teach me how to fish instead of giving me the fish. The same concept is applied here. I want to work this concept into cases of people with disabilities. I want to teach them a profession, to give them work and expand their opportunities.
The element of trust involved in the experience takes the customer into a world only familiar to those suffering from visual impairment.
The mobility, how you move on the dark room, how you need to sit as people in the dark room, how you need to. It's the same like in ordinary restaurants, but we need to do with mobility. Everything is with mobility because you have a different table, you have a number of chairs by table. So yes, it's like another noise, but it's in the dark.
Dan Le Noir was formed in 2002 in Paris and has branches in London, Barcelona, Madrid, St. Petersburg, Melbourne in Australia, and Marrakesh. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
Now, while Nollywood is big in Nigeria, some young creators are aiming to boost the animation industry. They're taking on projects which reflect local themes that are going viral and attracting viewership in their millions. Yes, CGTN's Deji Badmus with one such animator who is breaking new ground.
This 3D animation was the work that brought Olajide Babalola and his Black House Studios to limelight. Babalola and his team created the Santa Project to bring a culturally Nigerian perspective to the story of Santa Claus using animation. By using local characters and adapting his entire content to reflect local nuances, Babalola's animations have since become a hit. Trained as an architect, Babalola founded Black House Studios in 2009, a production company that specializes in 3D modeling and animation. He says he picked up animation as his storytelling medium because he desired to tell stories that both the old and young could relate with.
It's a very good medium, you know, to impact the consciousness of viewers. So you can break down complex messages into simple procedures. You can use it to tell a story, you can use it to teach, you can use it to train, you can use it to document, you can use it as a historical tool. There are so many things, enlightenment, education. So it just depends on what is inside you, what message or what idea, what concept you are trying to relate.
Animation has a universal appeal because of its versatile storytelling tool. And because of its element of entertainment, it's easy to overlook the complexities of producing it. Babalola dispels the myths about animation, explaining that there's more to it than meets the eye.
The total production process starts from concept development. You have your concept development, your scripts, you know, your story outline, whatever message you're trying to give. You do your storyboarding, then you start your character development. All these processes are things that on their own will take a whole studio or studios to do.
Nigeria's Nollywood film industry is the second largest in the world, but animation is still in its infancy in Nigeria. Babalola says poor funding and cultural acceptance are hindering the growth of the animation industry in the country.
The environment has not recognized the value. You know, the value proposition of animation has not yet been properly established in Nigeria. So a lot of people just look at it as a joke. You know, you say, are you animating? And somebody says, oh, the value of animation is not yet properly established in Nigeria. I think one of the key challenges we are facing. But that is, it's changing. That is, it's evolving.
To fast-track this evolution, Babalola's Black House Studios is training hundreds of people to tell stories through animation, including kids from as young as 9 years old. They have also produced over 50 animation videos, all with local Nigerian characters. The endgame for him is using animation to spur social-political change in Nigeria and other impactful causes. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
Zimbabwean-born Ben Tuge creates African-inspired and contemporary sculptures. Tuge goes with the flow of the wood, forming it into an expressive art piece. His collage technique gives each sculpture a unique character. Here's CGTN's Yolisa Njamela with more.
Ben Tuge has been a sculptor all his life. He tells us that his creative soul delighted the village folk when he started carving while tending his duties as a head boy, watching the cattle at the age of 5 back in his native land, Zimbabwe. Tuge's creations are inspired by African and contemporary art. His fervor for storytelling allows his work to touch and feel the spirit of exactly the moment in time he's portraying. He illustrates this for us.
So as you can see here, this is a jacaranda raw piece of wood. And you can see it's taking shape already. I do not dictate. I follow the shape of the wood and the story and the individual that is in, that I am planning to bring to life. So this is the tool that I use. So I imagine, I see what I want to do first, and then I go doing the shaping first. So I'm now studying the proportion. As you can see here, there's this knot that was there naturally, and already I see there's a hand. So I love also to do emotional pieces, emotional sculptures, emotional carvings. I love to express myself emotionally.
Tuge loves sculpting human figures and animals. He also enjoys exploring African lifestyle and culture. His art pieces tell us stories about life and the spirit of the African people.
Every week that I do it because there is a reason. There is a reason. It might be the best in terms of technique. It might be the best in terms of the storytelling. It might be the best in terms of that imagination. So it varies. But my work is all to do one with having to experiment, and is experimenting for a purpose. But I love the honesty that comes within me. And when I reach a stage where I think this is how I want to do it, then I can still do that. I can still do, perfection. I can still do sometimes rough work, but I love the lines. I also love, to follow the shape of the wood, which is actually where the story is.
Tuge's fine art, abstract and contemporary works are created with various types of woods, mixed media and collage on it. Tuge's work graces the homes of many art enthusiasts around the world. His clients love his exceptional eye for detail. Yolisa Njamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
And your business news coming up next. Here's what's ahead. 10 million mobile phone users in Tanzania to be cut off if they fail to meet the end of December registration deadline. And it's mixed reactions over West Africa's move from the CFA franc to the eco currency.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
There's more to this place than just glorious landscapes. There's more to it than just, say, Table Mountain or glorious, endless salt flats. There's more to it than countries that are home to some of the deepest mines in the world. There is so much more to this place. even if it is home to some of the finest diamonds on the planet. It is the sheer diversity of the people who call Southern Africa home, and the relentless drive to make it a better place that make it so special. And we know that because this too is home. No one knows Southern Africa like we do. CGTN, see the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The fate of about 10 million phone users in Tanzania hangs in the balance as the government reiterates that there will be no extension for phone users who fail to have their SIM cards biometrically registered by the end of December. The government says the move partly aims to reduce mobile phone fraud. CGTN's Isaac Lukando has more from Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania's Works, Transport and Communications Minister Isaac Kamwelwe has reiterated the government's stance that there will be no extension for phone users who fail to have their SIM cards biometrically registered by the December 31st deadline. In May of this year, the country's Communications Regulatory Authority directed that owners of all subscriber identification module cards, or SIM cards as they are known, should biometrically register their lines by the end of the year. The authority said the move was aimed at getting rid of dishonest mobile phone line users, controlling cybercrime and protecting Tanzanians against those abusing the telecom sector. If the move does go through, 10 million phone users could potentially lose communication. Recent data released by the Communications Regulatory Authority says that out of 21 million phone users in the country, 7.6 million phone users have already been registered, while 3 million phone users are in the process of registration and around 10 million phone users are yet to be registered. Of the 7 telecom providers in the country, none has reached 50% registration, standing the risk of losing out on potential income. Most of the newspapers in the country carry headlines that point to increasing anxiety among those who have not yet registered as the deadline draws near. The main challenge that Tanzanians seem to be facing is that they do not have national identity cards that would have enabled them to register their SIM cards. The National Identification Authority, NIDA, says it is working as fast as possible to facilitate registrations. There have also been differing views on the matter, with the president indicating in some of his public addresses that he may be in favor of not cutting off phone users after the deadline for lack of registration. The fate of unregistered phone users, therefore, remains to be seen once the deadline passes. Isaac Lukando, CGTN, Dar es Salaam.
Now, during a short trip to Cote d'Ivoire this week, French President Emmanuel Macron and his counterpart Alassane Ouattara announced the end of the CFA franc and the imminent circulation of the new eco-currency in 2020. In addition to the name change, the region no longer has to keep 50% of its reserves with French Treasury. This announcement has prompted mixed reaction in Cote d'Ivoire. Let's listen in.
The CFA is not dead, because I cannot understand why it is a foreign country which is at the head. It is a whole embellishment. It is the symbol which changed. It is the same system, and that is very serious. Our economists must be able to give their voice to awaken the minds of Africans. But they pretend to embellish the system in place. In reality, it is a comedy.
What arouses the suspicion and skepticism of African intellectuals is that one has the impression that it was not this process started by the CFA francs on this form which was announced. For them, it was as if it was a CFA franc in disguise. One has the impression that it is a cosmetic reform, yet the CFA francs needs a thorough reform. What is at stake is to regain freedom, monetary sovereignty, which was lost because of this monetary subjection. Then that of all our confessed 50% of our reserves were housed in the French treasury without our having any control over the remunerations which were made practically and unilaterally for the benefit of France.
Parce qu'il faut savoir que c'est depuis au moins les années 2000
It is an advance that is very notable and which goes in the direction of what we wish. The only element on which the Abidjan Agreement is silent is the monetary policy objectives. What do we want now? I think in the days to come, we will give our opinion.
And some Senegalese nationals are also not impressed with how far the new eco guidelines stretch. Take a listen.
The eco announcement raised concerns with me about France's real position. Are there eels under the rock? Does France say everything it intends to do? Is there no complicity between France and our leaders? I think eco is a chance. But now it all depends on how Africans manage this currency. If Africans are a little more vigilant and that we discover the intentions of France, on the one hand, it can allow us to know how to position ourselves, how to reshape our economic model and system to set up a viable and competitive currency. The efforts of good governance in our different countries must be even, and that we can all agree to set up a central bank.
I think that Africans are not 100% free despite this announcement. I believe that this future currency will be produced in France like the CFA. So there, we will always feel this gravity, that is to say the West. But I would say that it is a step forward, and over time, African countries will be able to have their monetary security. But for the moment, I think that France will not be able to withdraw because there are economic interests, and there it should be emphasized.
The capital city, Tunis, has been hosting the Tunisian International Weaving and Handicrafts exhibition. Hundreds of the most talented artists, craftswomen, craftsmen and weavers are showcasing their latest handmade products. CGTN's Adnan Chauchi has the details.
Over 20,000 people from Tunisia, Africa and the Mediterranean basin have visited the fair in the first week of the festive season. The zarbiya, the traditional carpet and rug, is considered as furniture in the North African state.
I came with my mother to discover the beautiful carpets. It's colorful and not expensive. It's important to buy gifts in this season.
Tunisian handicraft is a typical product and a very original gift. I love Tunisian handicraft.
Hasna is one of the most successful craftswomen in the country. She lives and works in a remote town in the governorate of El Kef, northwest of Tunisia. Every year she spends 10 days in the capital city Tunis to sell her handmade products at the end of the year market.
I make all models and forms of handicrafts. In addition, I've developed modern wool carpets, rugs, and other products. It's natural, healthy, and lasts for decades. It's the gift of the year for many consumers.
Lazhar is a 50-year-old rug maker who earns 70% of his annual revenues during the end of the year festive season.
People are often tempted to buy carpets and traditional accessories and offer them as gifts. Despite the mechanization and the use of modern fibers and means of production, handmade products are still fashionable and affordable.
According to the Ministry of Tourism and Handicrafts, handicraft exports are expected to generate around $30 million in revenues in 2019, against $28 million in 2018. In addition, the number of craftsmen participating in exhibitions and fairs rose from 3,124 in 2017 to 4,438 in 2018. This number is expected to reach 5,000 by the end of 2019. All handicraft activities will be granted the quality level as of January 2020, as was the case for tapestry and weaving in 2019. In addition, handicraft villages will be set up in the regions of Qasrin, Tatawin, Gafsa and Ben Arous. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
Let's now turn our focus on a Kenyan-Nigerian duo behind one of Nairobi's most popular African gourmet burger joints. Catching on to the gourmet food trend, they have won over many hearts with their unique cultural heritage and extensive flavor profiles. CGTN's Brian Toussaint has that story.
A Kenyan-Nigerian duo has created a gourmet burger brand that has turned into a sensation.
Hi, welcome to Mama Rocks.
I'm Samantha.
I'm Natalie.
Yes, and we're just going to give you a quick tour of the restaurants.
Yeah. So we're just about to open in the next 10 minutes.
Yes.
Natalie and Samantha Mwedekeli are sisters based in Nairobi, Kenya. While studying in the UK, they realized there was an opportunity for them to create an African brand around the global gourmet burger trend.
So we're kind of flexible with the way in which we serve.
The two mavericks have designed their own route to success. The use of extensive range of flavors and spices has given them a competitive edge against their competitors. They have also leveraged on their blended cultural heritage for unique branding.
We sell gourmet burgers that are influenced by cuisines from across Africa. I think we're the most heavily influenced by West African cuisine because our mother and grandmother are from Nigeria, so we grew up on their cooking. And we wanted to really share West African cooking with the world because we love it. We loved it as we were growing up.
The first Mama Rock's outlet was a food truck opened in 2015. The success garnered from this helped them open their second joint, also in the heart of Nairobi. Like many young Africans, the mantra, study hard, get a good job, work hard at it, and then live happily ever after, was often repeated to them. But this was not the vision they had in mind.
Myself and my sister do not have a culinary background whatsoever. We are not chefs, we're not trained, but we have a very good palate and we have a passion and we have a cause. And at the heart of our brand are its values. Yeah, we want it to be authentically African and fun. Yeah, and I think those are all messages that have come through in our branding. And I suppose our brand is also about self-expression, and we want other people to express themselves. And I feel like we've inspired other young people in Kenya that they can achieve whatever they want to achieve as long as they have the passion and they have the will.
These sisters describe their restaurants as a fusion of cultures and a celebration of Africa through the medium of food. True to this, their customers express the contentment every time they dig their teeth into the juicy gourmet burgers.
What sets Mama Rock's apart from other burger places? Their menu, the copy. I'm a big fan of copy. So just the way they describe the meals, the names for it, and also just like the environment of the place adds flavor, I think, to the food as well.
I tend to be a vegetarian, and I'm happy that they have veggie burgers. They have options for people like myself. But so far, the drinks here, finally it arrived. But so far, I like the vibe, the service, the energy. It's good to know that we have our African burgers because, you know, burger tends to be a lot more westernized.
The duo ultimately hopes to reflect a modern Africa through food and not the stereotypical or traditional Africa the rest of the world imagines. Brian Toussaint, CGTN.
And we still have more news, views and analysis for you here on the program. To stay with us.
Join us in Global Business and see Africa through our eyes.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Well, there's a lot of Christmas cheer in the air, and in the spirit of Christmas, a group of volunteers in Johannesburg, mostly students, extended their hand to prepare a festive lunch for over 200 homeless people, catering to the city's poor and destitute. CGTN's Julie Shire reports.
This year, these students are hoping to bring a little Christmas joy and restore some dignity to those who need it most.
In my culture, food brings people together. So a good, decent meal will make them feel loved, warm, that warmth that you get when you're at home with your family, with your parents. So we're trying to just give them that warmth of having a family, to say there's other people that care about them.
I think for me it's a very personal thing, because growing up in farms, that's where I stayed, I was exposed to disadvantaged people, knowing that what it is to have and not have. And now that I have an ability to help, it means a lot to be able to make a difference in somebody's life with what I have. Today we're having beef, chicken, and rice, and lots of veggies, beetroots, carrots, potato salad. So we want it to be like a Christmas full meal that will be not like an ordinary meal that I have on a daily basis. So that is why we want to make it special and going all out.
The experience of having a full meal, like some of them haven't had a full meal in quite a long time. So like it is going to be a huge deal for them. So we want them to have that sense of belonging, even to have that experience of enjoying Christmas and stuff.
Teboho has lived on the streets for over 10 years. After dropping out of high school, he made his way to the streets of Johannesburg searching for work. Instead, he found a life of drugs and hardship.
Christmas, for me, living on the street is just another day, I would say, because, well, you see by the movement that it's Christmas, but with your life, your personal life, it doesn't make any difference because every day is the same. I feel special right now that I'm talking to you guys, you know, because when you're on the streets, you are treated as a dog or just an animal, you know.
It's estimated Johannesburg has over 7,500 homeless people.
Christmas seems to bring out the best in us. The spirit is all about bringing peace and joy to the world. But all this goodness around a date has its downside. Christmas doesn't come every day for Johannesburg's less fortunate. After this meal, the prospect of returning back out on the streets is a reality for many here, without knowing when their next meal will be. Julie Shire, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And your sports news coming up next. Here's what's ahead. Top drivers prepare for the 2020 Dakar Rally in Saudi Arabia.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa.